Hey everyone, it's Joy here for Honeybee Stamps, and today I created a fun little portrait scene card using the At the Lake layering stencil. So I'm going to start with the first stencil, and it starts with the sky, and these are numbered. Super easy to follow, and I'm using some Simon Says Stamp positively saturated inks, and I'm starting with the sky, and I'm using marine for the background, so it's a lighter blue. And some of these stencils have multiple areas. This is going to be one of the mountains, like the bigger mountain in the background, and I am using fawn ink for this. I want this to be a little bit lighter, but as you can see when I'm ink blending, I'm doing the edges a little bit darker and then lighter in the center, just to give it a little bit more interest to the images. They're not just flat, if that makes sense. Then this one has the lake, and so I'm going to use Cadet. It's a darker blue. Again, I'm blending darker around the edges of the stencil, leaving the inside just a little bit lighter. So you can really add a lot of details with just your blending brush and ink. And I'm using smaller blender brushes. I feel like I have more control that way when I am using a stencil and ink blending. And so as you can see, I'm able to get lighter and darker areas. Now I'm using Cozy for the second part of the mountains. So you have these mountains that are a little bit closer to you, and it's going to give you a little bit more detail and look separate from the mountain behind. I also have some tape behind my card panel. This is an A2 size card panel, and the tape is just helping to hold that stencil in place. And each one has little, you can, if I'm not stenciling the mountain, say I'm stenciling the trees, it has some register lines there, so that way you can line up to the mountain to make sure that your stencils are all lined up in the right spot. I am using pine ink right now for some of these pine trees, of course. Then we're going to move on to our next set of trees, and I'm using field ink for this. Obviously you can do any color combination. You could make this a nighttime scene. You could do like a sunset or a sunrise. So I feel like you could get away with anything. I just wanted to go with kind of like the typical beautiful classic photograph type scenery. So I've got the grass there. I used Perfection, and then I'm coming in with Field and adding a little bit of a darker edge around the side. And once we're done with this, we're going to die cut it, which always makes me feel a little bit nervous when I die cut an image that I've just done a lot of coloring on. But we're going to do that. First, I want to add a little bit of detail. I'm also going to show you how to add some more detail at the end here. Super easy. Yeah, so hang around for that so you can see that. But I added a little bit of white pen detail to the water. I'm going to add a little bit to the mountain and the trees, but I wanted to see first how big of the oval that I'm going to use. This is the Sweet Stacks Ovals die. And I really want to keep most of my highlights and detailed stuff that we're going to add to the centerpiece, because we will also keep the outside piece that we die cut. So you guys will see that here in just a little bit. So let's put that oval in place. I'm going to tape that down in two areas so my die cut doesn't slide when I'm running it through the die cut machine. That would be awful. And then I decided, so this will be popped up on foam tape. I decided I wanted a little frame behind that. So I am taking the next size oval up, and I am going to use some patterned paper from the Adventure Awaits paper pad and this beautiful wood background. So it's going to keep it nice and light, but imagine you could put any color of bigger oval frame behind the image, and you'll see how it just breaks up the image a little bit, but it still looks like it's a complete image. So let's adhere that background that we want to keep to an A2 sized white card base. Then I'm going to adhere that stenciled oval to the patterned paper oval, and then let's add some foam tape so this can have some dimension on the background. So let's pop this into place. And then you can, well, of course, I can't lay anything down straight the first time. It always takes me 2 or 3 times. I don't know what my deal is, but that's my issue. And so now we've got that popped up image. Let's stamp a sentiment that says, relax and enjoy your day. This is from the Hooked on You stamp set and coordinating die. I'm using Honeybee Stamps black ink for this. I'm going to tape that in place, run that through the die cut machine, and then we have our sentiment for this, and then you guys can see how we're going to add some more detail. So of course I want my sentiment popped up with foam tape because I love dimension behind my sentiment, so I'm going to center that in the top. Now let's add some detail with the ink that we already used to stencil the background. I am pressing this down on my glass work surface, adding a little bit of water and a paintbrush because that ink is water reactive. And then I'm going to add some details to the mountains because I want this to have just more interest to it. But I want you guys to notice that beautiful frame. Doesn't that look nice? It just separates the background from this centerpiece. So to me, it looks like a portrait now. I think it turned out so pretty. But now we did that detail. I'm going to add a little bit more detail to this darker mountain. So I'm using the same exact colors that I used for stenciling. Again, adding just a little bit of water and getting all of that good detail on this background, which is really, really nice. And then I can clean up my work surface and then bring in more detail. So I want to add some more detail to the waves. Now remember we did some of that white gel pen. I'm going to add the blue ink. This is the Cadet ink in between the white pieces. But again, I want to leave that center part light because I stenciled that light on purpose. So I want to keep it that way. But as you can see, I added more blue so it gives the water more of a wavy look, which is what we're going for. And then I'm going to add some detail to the pine trees, and it is not super neat, and I don't want it to be super neat. I want this to almost feel like a painted portrait in the, that you're looking at. So some of that detail to that pine tree. And of course I want to add some detail to the grass. So I'm using the Perfection. I'm going to add some dots. Then I'm going to add some like little blades of taller grass right at the water line. And I think that really made a huge difference. And again, I'm keeping all of that detail to that center oval piece. I'm not adding it to the outside. Not that you couldn't, but I liked it just in the center. To me, it made you really look there, and there's more going on. Let's add a little bit of detail to those background trees. And then we can take a look at this up close and see how pretty this is. I love how this turned out. Super easy to make a really gorgeous card with just that layering stencil and a shaped die. I think this turned out absolutely beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed this project, and I hope that you feel inspired to create something wonderful. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.